Hi, welcome to Market Analyst Pro and this is Prachita. Today we are talking about SVB and what happened there. First, let's go to a brief history. SVB benefited hugely from tech sector's explosive growth. Back in 2020, when market was crashing and investors were seeking respite in safe stocks, then considered as tech stocks. Bank assets, which enable loans, also tripled from 71 billion to 221 billion of SVBs from 2019 to 2022. Deposits ballooned from 62 billion to 198 billion over that period, as thousands of tech startups banked their cash with the lender. So what happened? SVB plowed billions into US government bonds during that era of non-zero interest. As market theme has always been buy what Fed buys, and what was actually Fed buying. US government bonds were then ballooning, as the emergency operations had already begun, where Fed was buying corporate debt. If you really want to know what is failing right now, just look into the data on Fed, on what actually Fed purchased then. Fed was buying corporate debt, as already stated, and due to endless credit to economy and stimulus to its citizens, the books were getting inflated. So inflation has to be an understood product of what Fed did in 2020. Now, on top of it, decades of bad decision making, low employment rate, paper economy with no manufacturing support, and credit economy, everything was bound to fail. Later, Fed interest rate hiking spree sent borrowing cost higher, meaning tech startups had to channel more cash towards repaying debt. What debt? Loan debt. Loan taken against shares to build endless private companies. Consider it as a Ponzi scheme, where one private company manufactured gets added as an asset in other private company books. And all this in total gets added to the listed company books under assets. Why assets? Because you are building a private company, something that that will accelerate your future growth. But in reality, it's the world's biggest Ponzi scheme, as nothing is getting created but private companies with no employee or product. Do you really think Apple makes as many products so as to be a 3 trillion market cap? No. Now, with Fed rate hikes, tech went struggling to raise new venture capital funding. SVB had a very high exposure to tech sector, which has been particularly hard hit by rising interest rates. We all know what happened later. With HSBC stepping in to buy SVB, what would have actually happened if HSBC would not have bought SVB at a cost of £1? It would have led to insolvency, leaving customers with only guaranteed deposits to be recovered. Meanwhile, also a thing to note, just a week before, China bond market went to frenzy when Chinese government stopped displaying bond data to investors. Thereafter, some hours of hush, data was restored. But what does that tell about the credibility and trust in the bond which you buy from the government? And what does that actually tells you about the debt which China is also buying? Also, please note, in 2008 as well, the biggest buyer of US debt was China. So, all in all, what has happened is Fed issued new bonds with the lucrative interest rates because of a hiking spree wherein they are increasing the interest rates. Now, what does that do to the old bonds which were launched at almost a zero interest rate? They actually lose their charm. So no one is buying those old bonds. Everyone wants a piece of new bonds. So SVB, who's plowed all its money into the old bonds, one, it loses that money because that bond rate keeps on decreasing in the market. Hence, the depositors' money, which is also a tech sector, keeps on declining. Now, tech sector is also unable to garner more money, as we just discussed, because of higher interest rates, and all this channel into a vicious circle wherein you are seeing series of banks failing. Will Fed be able to respite anything? It's a thing we'll have to see. Meanwhile, if you've seen my last video, already 6 central banks have collaborated to save the loan market, to save CLO. They have started emergency market operations, which will be operational till April 2023. If they elongate it, we don't know. Will it still save anything? We don't know. But food for thought, if actually buying spree emergency operations actually could have saved anything, the biggest emergency operation from 2020, which just ended some time back, would have already saved the economy, but it did not, and that is why we are in one more emergency operation spree. So stay alert, stay safe. Government is again in a buying spree, so stay put. But let's see how actually this floats, and stay tuned so that I can bring to you the latest, and also let you know that if it's time to hold or to pull out from the market. Thank you. Stay tuned. Please like, subscribe and share. Thanks.